The crowded 2020 field got another addition today when Beto O'Rourke jumped in and President Trump immediately attacked him. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Trump and his advisors are already putting together his 2020 re-election campaign, and they're not just staffing up and raising money. They reportedly want Trump's re-election bid to be one of the biggest and most sophisticated campaigns in history. Trump's campaign manager told the Washington Post this week, "We are creating the largest campaign operation in American history, an unstoppable apparatus that will follow and implement President Trump's strategy." An unstoppable apparatus? Are you talking about your presidential campaign or the Death Star? But of course, Trump has to create an unstoppable apparatus because he's perhaps the weakest candidate of any sitting president in recent history. Polls have shown that a large majority of Americans consider the president both a criminal and a liar. And yesterday, the guy who ran the president's last campaign, Paul Manafort, was both sentenced in one case and indicted in another. Trump was asked by reporters if he was considering a pardon for Manafort. He insisted that he wasn't.
Will you pardon Paul Manafort?
I have not even given it a thought as of this moment. It's not something that's right now on my mind.
Now, in fairness, that's an accurate answer to virtually any question you could ask Donald Trump. Mr. President, for example, Mr. President, what is the role of government in American life? It's not something that's on my mind. Trump's brain is capable of holding exactly one thought at a time, and it echoes through his skull like a cave.
Hamburgers. China.
Golf.
But the Russia investigation and the various scandals swirling around Trump aren't the only things making him vulnerable. In fact, this week he did something that could potentially hurt him more politically than Robert Mueller ever could. He proposed a budget that would gut wildly popular health care programs that he specifically promised he would never cut.
President Trump released his budget for 2020 today, proposing massive cuts to government-funded health care. The president's budget includes a cut of $845 billion to Medicare over the next 10 years and $241 billion from Medicaid.
So Trump said he would never cut Medicare or Medicaid, and now he's cutting billions from Medicare and Medicaid. Is there anything about this guy that isn't a lie? I'm starting to suspect his fake hair is covering a full head of real hair. Trump's legal attacks and his attacks on healthcare programs have made him one of the weakest incumbent presidents in modern polling and left a huge opening for Democrats, which is why so many of them are running for president. In the last few weeks, Washington Governor Jay Inslee and former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper have officially jumped in. Colorado Senator Michael Bennet was in New Hampshire. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio was in South Carolina. And Senator Elizabeth Warren was in Queens. And 3 more candidates were in Texas doing town halls on CNN. In total, the New York Times lists 15 candidates who've already declared and at least another 8 who might run. Look at that. There are so many people on that screen, you didn't even notice that one of them was Carrot Top. And on top of all that, the New York Times reported that former Vice President Joe Biden is 95% committed to running. And in his speech to firefighters this week, he teased a possible run.
You know, I'd like you all to, I appreciate the energy you showed when I got up here. Save it a little longer. I may need it in a few weeks. Be careful what you wish for.
No, dude, be careful what you wish for. You really want to do this? If you run for president, everyone's going to dig through every dumb thing you've said the last 40 years and get mad at you. Why do you want to do that to yourself? Right now, you're known as Obama's wingman, Uncle Joe, the only guy who ever looked like he was having fun at the State of the Union. And look at that party animal. He looks like right after that was over, he was going to make Obama do a keg stand. Then there's former Texas Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke, who officially jumped into the race today after spending weeks teasing a possible run. Beto appears on the new cover of Vanity Fair this week with the headline Beto's Choice. And look, I'm a little upset it took Beto this long to announce, because if he'd done it in 2008, I definitely could have played him on SNL. Definitely. I mean, it certainly was closer than John Kerry. But the cover was not the only eye-catching thing about this profile. Beto also explained why he wanted to run for president. Now, this is a key question for any candidate. People want to know why you're doing this and what you can bring to the table. It's a question past candidates have flubbed, and in many cases, it's doomed them. So here's what Beto said. "I think I'd be good at it. I want to be in it. Man, I'm just born to be in it." I'm sorry, no one is born to be president. Nobody is born to be anything. Springsteen said he was born to run, and then he wrote 400 songs about New Jersey. I mean, look at Trump. He wasn't born to be president. If he was born to be anything, it was selling fake Rolexes in Times Square. Beto also talked about his rise to fame, the Senate campaign that launched him to national stardom, and the very first event he did in that campaign. And his description of that experience was, well, it was a little weird. He told Vanity Fair, "I honestly don't know how much of it was me, but there is something abnormal, supernormal. I got in there, and I don't know if it's a speech or not, but it felt amazing because every word was pulled out of me, like by some greater force, which was just the people there. Everything that I said, I was like watching myself, being like, how am I saying this stuff? Where is this coming from?" Now, in the run-up to 2020, we here at Late Night, we're going to try really hard, and we're going to ask ourselves, would we make fun of Donald Trump if he said that? So let's see. Because every word was pulled out of me, like by some greater force, which was just the people there. Everything that I said, I was like watching myself, being like, how am I saying this stuff? Where is it coming from? Yeah, no, Beto, that was weird, yeah. That was a weird thing to say. Seriously, I did not know that weed was legal in Texas. And when Beto went to Iowa today for his first official event since announcing his campaign, there were a few more weird moments. For example, at the end of his speech, a lady in the crowd forced him to make it absolutely clear that he was running for president.
Thank you. I cannot tell you how much this means to me. I will remember this forever. Every single one of your faces and what you were wearing and what you had to drink.
Let us remember it. You said you're going to run. Announce it now for us.
I'm running to serve you as President of the United States of America.
Man, I don't know who that lady is, but I love her. She should moderate every presidential debate. You have 5 seconds, now spit it out! And yet, as weird as Beto's launch has been so far, as always, Trump and his allies on Fox News have found a way to out-weird him. For example, the Vanity Fair profile mentioned some of the books Beto has in his house, and Fox News host Brian Kilmeade was apparently baffled by that.
Vanity Fair has a huge article and feature on him. It's almost as if they helped launch his campaign. Here's a quote from it. He says, "I want to be in it, man. I'm just born to be in it." They also point out that he has this huge library, as if it's a big plus that he reads books.
I mean, it is a plus. Reading is definitely a plus for a president. Also, just so you know, when you attack someone for reading books, you're really attacking yourself. Although I'm not surprised Kilmeade is anti-book. I bet if you open one in his house, there'd just be a hollowed-out spot for a Snickers. I see you found Moby Dick. I think you'll find it's delicious. Fox News is not the only cable channel that's taken a keen interest in Beto's announcement. There was also MSNBC, which honed in on even the smallest details of Beto's trip to Iowa. For example, they seemed especially fixated on his minivan.
Beto O'Rourke is driving himself in his Dodge Caravan. He just left Keokuk, and he's arriving here to Fort Madison High School.
Vaughn, do we know how the minivan got to Iowa? If it's a rental that he acquired there, or if this is sort of the O'Rourke family minivan that has now been moved to Iowa for campaign purposes?
It looks like an Illinois van. This is about 3 hours away from any major city. The question, Congressman, is where's the rental car from?
Des Moines.
Des Moines.
Picked it up in the Des Moines airport.
Wow, hard-hitting stuff, you guys. Did you use Hertz or Avis? Answer the question. Will you release your minivan returns? Then there was Trump. Today, Trump is dealing with an urgent airline safety issue, a resolution from the House calling for the Mueller report to be made public, an unprecedented rebuke from the Senate over his national emergency declaration, and dozens of scandals and investigations of every aspect of his life. Not to mention, he was meeting with the Prime Minister of Ireland. But amid all of that, he just had to take a swipe at Beto.
What's your reaction to Beto O'Rourke's announcement today, Mr.
Well, I think he's got a lot of hand movement. I've never seen so much hand movement. I said, is he crazy or is that just the way he acts?
I'm sorry, are you accusing someone else of having weird hand movements and acting crazy? Every time you do a press conference, you look like you're playing an invisible accordion. You guys ready for the liar's polka? Now, Beto is jumping into a crowded field that already has several established candidates who have spent weeks laying the groundwork in early primary states, like Bernie Sanders, who was in Iowa last week. And when he mentioned climate change, this happened.
Tonight, we say to Donald Trump and the fossil fuel industry? Well, that is one way of phrasing it. I myself was going to say it a little bit differently. I am a senator, you know.
Man, you could just tell from his face that he wanted to say it. And it would make things a lot more entertaining if Bernie was just totally unleashed. Can you imagine how much bleeping they'd have to do on C-SPAN?
Donald Trump is a and a.
Now, some of these candidates are more well-known than others, but one lesser-known candidate who seems to be gaining a lot of traction this week is Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Buttigieg got rave reviews for his performance at a town hall on CNN on Sunday, where he said this about Vice President Mike Pence, who was previously the governor of Indiana.
How could he allow himself to become the cheerleader of the porn star presidency?
And that is such a great analogy, because this presidency is definitely like a porno, and Pence might be able to tell himself he's not the star, he's not the one having sex, he didn't take his clothes off, but he's definitely the guy watching through the keyhole. Democrats are eager to take on Trump because he's the weakest incumbent president in recent history. He's beset by scandals and he's gutting Medicare. And on top of that, voters are looking at Trump and asking themselves,
is he crazy or is that just the way he acts?
This has been a closer look.